So, over the years, Blender has grown to become this amazing product that a lot of creators use, as it has now evolved into a powerful and complex software that seems to cater to the needs of almost every indie and most professional 2D and 3D creator. Except in some cases where creators need a specific thing which most times Blender can't really handle, or that specific feature isn't developed or implemented as supposed, and this can be linked to it being a free open source and crowd-funded tool, which as an open source tool is a blessing to the community and most times comes with its own unsolicited sprinkle of bickering. And with a growing user base, it's only natural for creators and also artists to demand a couple of things, and that has actually put Blender in a very interesting situation as it continues to evolve to become that all-in-one user-friendly and first-choice 3D tool for most new and experienced artists. And with Blender 5.0 announced, there's a ton of things that this now comes with. At the same time, there is also a good number of features that creators wish they had with this release. And we're talking about things like the DLSS and also the iPad versions which were teased. And all of these are features that needs a lot of resources to put together, even though most of this release are slated for the 5 series and not 5.0, and a couple of cool ideas and existing features that needs both polishing, updating, and maintenance. And all of these can definitely happen, and realistically, most of these requires different kinds of resources. And to make several aspects of the product development alongside some interesting ideas come to fruition, the folks at Blender Foundation have launched a new initiative called the Blender Lab, which is a platform that will bring together both designers, researchers, developers, and anyone that is interested in contributing and collaborating with fellow designers, developers, and researchers to help bring various projects to completion. And on the Blender Lab landing page, a few key details have been outlined, and just like any other lab, we do have lab activity. And so, what is a lab activity? So by default, the lab activity is a project that brings innovation to Blender project and contribute to Blender Foundation's mission. The project itself should face some unknowns, but also be handled by a team or individual with sufficient domain knowledge to solve that particular problem. And if we simply go over to blender.org/labs, you see some of the stuff that you're currently looking at. And some of these we've covered on the channel before, which includes the Beyond Mouse and Keyboard that deals with touch and pen, which is currently in progress. And this includes the implementation of Blender for both Android and iPad. We've seen a couple of sneak peeks here and there. At the same time, we've also talked about the Beyond Mouse and Keyboard with some companies like Pico coming into the picture for VR and XR. I believe a lot of creators are also going to come in, and this is going to help make Blender way better than it is. In terms of rendering, they're currently working on volumetric rendering. We did see some interesting updates with version 5.0 when talking about cycles, but there are still some cool stuff that they're working on in terms of making unbiased volume rendering practical for GPUs and production rendering. Light transport is also something that is being planned, and that is where designers, developers, and anyone that has a skill in this particular space can come in and help bring these ones to life. Some things that are still requiring funding and stakeholdershipness includes the USD authoring. Of course, we've seen updates about USD, but USD isn't as great as it is with tools like Maya, Houdini, and other tools. So it would make a lot of sense to have this expand authoring capabilities and enable Blender to read and write USD files more natively and seamlessly. Blender does understand how to read these and write a couple of things out, but it is not fully the way it is supposed to be. AI and ML is also something that requires funding and some stakeholders to plug in and help Blender achieve all of this. And these and some of the other stuff also require funding. Something else which I believe a lot of us may have forgotten about is one interesting project that the folks at Blender did tease out some time ago. And I think this also boils down to the idea of having funding and having some developers come in to help out. And that is with Blender apps. We did see a couple of teases here and there about Blender apps and the fact that, Blender could have apps that were just dedicated to one particular thing, which sort of made sense. Like if you just want to do like modeling, you can have something in relation to stuff like plasticity and just work on that. And maybe you can have something in relation to animation, which could look more like, just having a Blender app that sort of mimics what you have with Roomba, and you have that do all of the animation and maybe plug it back into Blender Something else which also made a lot of sense, and I think Pablo Dubaro was the one that sort of talked about that while he was still in Blender, was having a more dedicated viewport where you could do high resolution sculpting, and then all of that ends up plugging back into Blender. Now, for some reason, those projects did not pull through, and I think there's also a couple more projects that didn't pull through, and I guess that is where the whole Blender lab plugs in properly. So if you are a creator, a designer, a developer, a researcher, or you have a thing or two, a thing or two about the technicalities of making cool stuff, and potentially you have an idea of something that you would like to see in Blender, and you can proceed with helping out to build that, then your expertise as a resource will come in very handy. Now down here, they also talked about applied versus academic. And so the lab activities are definitely going to be grouped into two categories, where we have applied researches, which the main focus of the lab will be developing and eventually shipping groundbreaking solutions based on the latest research and knowledge in a field. There's also the academic research section of this, where Blender developers offers an advisory role on how technology can be best implemented in production software. And the goal about this is to start with a limited number of projects which we've just run through with the support of key Blender contributors. And during the course of 2026, more guidelines about how stuff gets to be done will be shared as well. So Blender Lab is a thing which is now happening, and I believe lots of things will come out from this, as it's more like an innovation space within Blender projects where creators can do stuff. And speaking about things that creators can do, if you simply go over to the extension platform right now, you'll find a couple of nice cool stuff that can definitely get you going. At the same time, there's also some very nice cool stuff that you can find on Superhive, which is also pretty interesting. Now, for those who are also looking for free 3D models and stuff, we also covered a video about that recently, and I'm going to link that in the description so you can go through and check it out yourself. Tell me what you guys think about this one in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.